Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is OJ and today we have to break down some unfortunate news. Dan Hooker is unable to fight Justin Gaethje at UFC 313 due to a hand injury. Sucks because this was a fight I was really hoping to tune into. But now that Dan Hooker has pulled out, a lot of people have put their names in the hat to fill in as a short notice replacement for Dan Hooker. For today, we're going to break down all of the relevant names that make sense to fill in for this fight, predict the chances this short notice fighter has against Justin Gaethje, and talk about how likely the UFC will make this fight happen. So without wasting any more time, let's jump right into the video. First off, we have Rafael Fiziev. Now, Fiziev fought Justin Gaethje a few years back, where Gaethje won via close decision. And now it seems that Fiziev wants to run that fight back. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't see Rafael Fiziev winning this fight. And it's not even because he already lost to Justin Gaethje in the past. Fiziev is coming back from a devastating knee injury. I thought Fiziev was going to get a tune-up fight just to show us that his knee is fine. But straight into Justin Gaethje is a tall task. The other thing about Fiziev is his poor gas tank management. He often tires out in 3 round fights, and in a 5 round fight on short notice, I have a lot of doubts that Fiziev will be able to survive the later rounds. Maybe Gaethje's chin is completely cooked, but if this hypothetical matchup reaches championship rounds, I don't see how Fiziev can get the job done. As for whether or not the UFC will make this matchup, I say there is a chance because their first fight was really fun to watch. But the fact that Gaethje beat Rafael Fiziev in the past, I don't see why the UFC will feel incentivized to make a rematch, especially since Fiziev is coming back from a 1 year layoff due to his knee. Would it be a cool fight? Yes, but I just don't see Fiziev winning, nor do I think there are a lot of incentives for the UFC to make this fight happen. Up next, we have Mateusz Gamrot. Mateusz Gamrot fought Dan Hooker back in UFC 305. I do think this is a more of an interesting fight because I did at the time think that Gamrot beat Dan Hooker at UFC 305. I can definitely see either guy winning, but if I had to pick one fighter to win, I would slightly favor Justin Gaethje. Sure, Gaethje has mediocre jiu-jitsu, but Gamrot does not have a submission game outside of a goddamn Kimura from side control. Can Gamrot take Gaethje down? Yes, but I don't have enough confidence in Gamrot's jiu-jitsu. His control game is pretty mid, and his submission game is almost non-existent. There is a very likely scenario where Gamrot just smudges Gaethje up against the fence in the later rounds, but there is always a chance where Gaethje just knocks out Gamrot. Even though I thought Gamrot beat Dan Hooker in their fight, I can still see Gaethje picking apart Mateusz Gamrot. But maybe speculations for this fight would be completely useless because, let's be honest, the UFC will never make this fight happen. Now, I love Mateusz Gamrot. I thought he should have won that fight over Dan Hooker at the time. But if you are telling me putting together a fight with Justin Gaethje and advertising that shit as a 5 round war of violence, Mateusz Gamrot is not the answer. Mateusz Gamrot is the polar opposite of 5 round violence. It doesn't mean he's not really good. It's just I never think of violence when I watch a Mateusz Gamrot fight. I think of a wrestler who can throw hands if forced into a corner. The UFC literally had Gamrot as a backup opponent at UFC 294, but after Charles Oliveira pulled out of his rematch against Islam Makhachev, the UFC decided to bring in Alexander Volkanovski to fight Makhachev instead, even though Gamrot was supposed to be the original backup opponent. It's kind of sad, but my point still stands. They'll never allow Mateusz Gamrot near the belt. They'll not make this fight happen. Would it be cool to say? Maybe, but again, likely to never happen. Our third option, Money Moicano. Now, to be honest, I would favor Money Moicano in this matchup. Sure, he doesn't carry a lot of sting in his strikes, and his takedowns aren't as good as Gamrot's. But the difference, I believe, comes in the jiu-jitsu. Justin Gaethje is notorious for subpar submission defense, and I think Moicano can capitalize on that. This doesn't mean that I would pick Moicano in a heartbeat because there is a chance Moicano just gets chinned by Justin Gaethje. However, the more consistent option is on Money Moicano's side. Therefore, I would pick Money Moicano to either win by submission, ground and pound TKO, or a possible close decision. Out of the matchups I suggested so far, I think it makes the most sense. Again, Fiziev is coming off a 1 year layoff from a knee injury, and he lost to Justin Gaethje a few fights back. Mateusz Gamrot, I would like to see him get this fight, but I'm not sure the UFC will even entertain that idea, considering how openly disrespectful they are to Mateusz Gamrot. There are still other guys I would like to talk about, so I'm not gonna say for sure that Moicano will get this fight. We move on to Arman Tsarukyan. Now, he hasn't volunteered his name into the hat, but I thought to include him anyway because this matchup makes a lot of sense. It's very clear that after Tsarukyan pulled out of UFC 311, Dana White wants Tsarukyan to win one more fight before challenging for the title. Considering that Justin Gaethje was one fight away from his own title shot, I say that Tsarukyan versus Gaethje makes a lot of sense. As for how the fight will play out, I would actually favor Justin Gaethje slightly. I believe this is going to be a similar situation to the hypothetical matchup between Gaethje and Gamrot. Can Sarukian take Gamrot? I'm sorry. Can Sarukian take Gaethje down? Sure, but can Sarukian just control Gaethje to either find a submission or ground and pound TKO? We rarely see ground and pound TKOs from Armin, and we almost never see submissions from him either. Now, I do believe the difference between Armin and every other guy I talked about, other than Fiziev, is that Armin can get more respect on the feet because he can just knock Gaethje out. Maybe Gaethje's chin is so cooked that we're looking at a Beneil Dariush situation. Now, on full camp, however, I would favor Armin Tsarukyan because I do believe he's a better MMA fighter at this point. But given the stylistic matchup and this fight being put together on short notice, I would actually pick Justin Gaethje, and I would especially pick him if the odds makers have him as an underdog. But even if this fight is put together on short notice, I think Armin taking this fight would do a lot for his career. Yes, I did just say that this is a tough matchup that I believe he would lose because it being put together on short notice. But if Armin is able to pull off a win against Justin Gaethje, I think it's undeniable that Armin needs to be the next title challenger against Islam Makhachev. I doubt that Armin will take this fight, but if he says he wants to take it, then I think the UFC will be very happy to give Arman Tsarukyan this fight. So this is always an option on the table. Last but not least, I want to talk about John Silva and Mauricio Hufi because not only are they part of the Fighting Nerds gym, I see the result of this fight kind of going in very similar ways. Like both of these guys, if the fight sticks to the feet, will probably knock out Justin Gaethje. But Justin Gaethje might not do the Max Holloway thing BMF. Like we've seen Justin Gaethje shoot takedowns before, like when we fought Viziev a couple years back. How do either of these guys look if someone who's like pretty capable of shooting takedowns actually shoots a takedown on them? It's hard to say. No one's really done it before. But if it's left up to the feet, probably you should pick both of these guys by knockout. But either way, neither of these guys are really going to get this fight. For Mauricio Rufi, I'm sorry, he only has like two wins in the UFC. James Longtop, who's all right, and Jamie Malarkey, who is a tomato can. And as for Jean Silva, I think they're just going to save him for the Bryce Mitchell execution. There's no reason for the UFC to really send John Silva to fight Justin Gaethje, especially in short notice, where yes, I would pick both of these guys to knock out Justin Gaethje, but it's not far fetched to say Justin Gaethje can also knock out one of these guys. It would be a cool fight to see. Do I have that strong of an interest to see it? Not really, because I think we can develop both of these guys without immediately getting rid of Justin Gaethje in the process. Honestly, looking at the landscape of the division right now, the fight I believe is most likely going to happen is Justin Gaethje and Renato Moicano. Either that or they might rebook Gaethje versus Hooker sometime in the near future because the rest of the matchups, I don't see them materializing whatsoever. Sucks for Dan Hooker because I was really looking forward to see blonde hair Hooker make one last title run. I wish him nothing but a healthy recovery, and we'll hear from Hooker when the time comes. As for Gaethje, I thank him for not trying to cancel his appearance at UFC 313 because outside of the main event, Gaethje and Hooker is like the only banger fight that's also high profile. Now, I know that there's also other fights on the card, but I don't feel the same level of hype and importance in those fights. So I hope the UFC will find a matchup for Justin Gaethje as soon as possible. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today's video. Let me know in the comments down below who you guys think the UFC is going to give Justin Gaethje. Do you believe it's one of the names I listed above? Or do you think it's going to be someone completely different? Let me know in the comments down below. But until then, I will see you guys next time. Peace.